Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I have the best job ever. Through one-on-one angel sessions and soul mentoring and a variety of classes, I am here to inspire and encourage you. And you can learn more about my offerings at my website, illuminatingsouls.com. And you can also sign up for my daily inspiration email blast, and I will send you an inspiring email every weekday. So lots of ways that we can connect. But for now, the angels and I are here to help you rest and connect with the divine love that is here for you. I want to start off by saying thank you for listening. It is truly a blessing to connect with you, and if you're enjoying this podcast, I would love to hear from you. It is such a blessing to be able to connect with you and hear how the podcast is working for you. And also, if you're enjoying it, if you would consider leaving a review on iTunes. It really helps other people to discern if the podcast will be their cup of tea. So thank you so much. I so appreciate you, which is our theme for this episode is gratitude. This episode is going to be released right around Thanksgiving of 2022. And one of the ways I enjoy holding Thanksgiving in my heart is to focus on gratitude. On the journey of self-growth, there are so many different ways to work with gratitude. I'm sure you have your own practices in place, which may include listing the things for which you are grateful each day. However, I have a little bit of a different twist I'd like to bring to you to contemplate, and that is experiencing and receiving gratitude. For instance, when someone thanks you for doing something, if you've picked them up and driven them to the grocery store, and they say thank you, do you receive that and welcome that into your heart? Or do you brush it off with a response like, oh, it was no big deal, no worries? I have a tendency to do that myself. And the angels invite us to make it a practice to receive and be present to the gratitude that others express for our beingness and our actions. So just take a deep breath in and contemplate this with me for a few moments. How good are you at receiving? And it's okay if your answer is not so good Because for many of us that are bringers of light, we are much better at giving than we are receiving. So I want to start off by sharing my gratitude for you. And I invite you to receive. So more than 20 years ago, a dream started in my heart that I would somehow find my people and I would be able to do this work and we would be able to share our journeys together. So you're being here right now listening to this broadcast. You are a prayer answered in my life. That this recording somehow found you in the right time and space, and that you were guided to listen. You are answering a prayer that I placed into the universe a long time ago. And I am so deeply grateful for you. You are a miracle in this world. And I have such love in my heart for you, even if we have never met. Because I know in many ways we are kindreds. We carry hope in our hearts for brighter tomorrows. We are empaths and we feel so much of what is happening in this world through our hearts. And this world is better because you are here. So this is my invitation to you to receive this gratitude. That by the very simple, seemingly innocuous choice to listen to this message, you have brought me a blessing. How wonderful is that? So just take a deep breath in and just receive the energy of this love and this gratitude that I send your way. And also, while we're at it, receive the gratitude of your angels. They are so deeply grateful for you. You are one of the courageous ones who chose to be incarnated in this time and place to help with the evolution of consciousness on the planet. I know that's pretty heady stuff, but it's true. So just take a breath in and allow yourself to receive as we give thanks for the gift of you. And I invite you to get comfortable in your body and pull the blankets up just right if you are preparing for sleep. As we send waves of gratitude to your beautiful body as well, the body that beats your heart, allows you to laugh, allows you to be present in this world. So just allow this wave of gratitude for your body to flow through you. Even if you're not feeling the gratitude, the angels are. So allow your body to receive. And I'm going to call the angels in now, even though they are already here. So beautiful angels on high, I invite you to join us here. And I ask that you bring ripples of love to each of our beloveds listening to this broadcast. I ask that you help to lift anything that does not belong to us, any old fears or doubts or worries that we no longer need to embody. May these be lifted up into the highest realms and transformed in service for the highest good of all concerned. And angels, I ask that you bring in a lightness of spirit, that we feel lighter in our bodies, lighter in our hearts, and lighter in our beingness. And angels, I ask that you assist us in opening to the love and the gratitude that is flowing through for each of us right now. And dear ones, I just invite you to take another nice deep breath in, allowing the healing light to flow to you now, to feel the gentleness and the comfort and the compassion of your angels as they bathe you with light. In this moment, there is nothing you need do. The angels will do the heavy lifting here. Just allow yourself to receive the blessings and the goodness that are flowing to you. The angels are saying prayers for your path. They carry you in their hearts. They are sprinkling magic upon your path, so that miracles and blessings will find you in the days and weeks and months to come. So just take a deep breath in as the angels bring soothing, loving light to you. And the angels are showing me that they are bringing a sweet cascade of light across your body. And they are especially doing some clearing light around your upper back. So many of us carry our stress in our upper back and on our shoulders and shoulder blades. And so just take a nice deep breath in and allow this gentle, soothing light to come to you now, as the angels help to relax that area of your body. And anywhere else you are feeling tightness, just allow the love to flow to those parts of your body. And just breathe and receive. There is so much love and gratitude flowing through for you right now. We thank God for the gift of you. I thank you for every moment of your life that has brought you here. I am grateful for your sense of humor. I am grateful for your gifts. I am grateful for your humanness. I am grateful for all that you are. So take a deep breath in and receive. And I invite you to come into a lovely state of rest. And while you rest, the angels will be with you. And this energy will continue flowing to you. And so while you cozy on up and snuggle on in, I'm going to tell you a story. And for this episode, our story time is going to be about Thanksgiving memories. It's right around Thanksgiving time. And even if you're listening to this in July, the love and the memories are still warm and will keep you company as you go about your day or your night. I know that we have listeners from around the world, and I'm sure you have heard about the Thanksgiving holiday here in the US. And this is not going to be a historical perspective about Thanksgiving, but rather I'm going to share with you my memories of it. Because I have lovely, warm memories of Thanksgiving. I know not everybody does, but in retrospect, I feel like I had a pretty archetypal Thanksgiving experience growing up. And so I thought I would share my memories with you. Perhaps they will help you remember yours, or if you did not have Thanksgiving as a child, I am happy for the opportunity to share my memories with you. So as most of you know, I grew up in the Chicago area. And so almost always Thanksgiving was in the midst of very winter weather. It was not unusual to have snow around Thanksgiving. And these days, there are more stores and more activity that happens on Thanksgiving Day, but when I grew up, everything was closed. The world was very quiet on Thanksgiving Day. The only store that was opened was our White Hen Pantry, which was our version of 7-Eleven. But other than that, nothing was open. And every year, we would go to my Aunt Jane's house. She was one of my mom's sisters. And they had another sister who lived in California. But in our area, my mom and her sister Jane divvied up the holidays. They each hosted one of the Passover Seders, and then my Aunt Jane hosted Thanksgiving, and my mom would host a Hanukkah party. The lovely thing about this arrangement was that it gave us regular opportunities to get together. Our extended family at that time was rather small. And eventually our family grew as spouses were added and children were born. And it was so lovely that every year we would have these opportunities to get together. And we have a rather lively family. We have the kind of family where someone's always talking and we don't lack for conversation. We're a family that loves good food, and we enjoy each other's company. And my mom and her sister were of an era when you set a beautiful table. So they had good china and crystal and silver and cloth napkins and serving pieces and serving dishes, and they both really enjoyed setting a beautiful table. And I will sadly say that has been lost on me. I am embarrassed to tell you I am a paper plate person when people come over because I don't have the energy to clean up everything. But my mom and her sister always set a beautiful table, so you knew it was a holiday. And so usually on Thanksgiving Day, there might be a football game. My dad might be watching. We would be puttering around the house. And we would usually go over to my aunt and uncle's house somewhere around 3 or 4 o'clock in the late afternoon. And one of the tactile memories I will always have is walking into their house. So it would have been very cold outside, and they were only a few miles from our house. So we would get in the car, but the car wouldn't really have time to warm up. It wasn't a long enough trip that the car would be warm. So it would be very crisp and cold outside, and perhaps there would be the crunch of the snow under our feet as we all packed into the car. And then we would get to their house, which was just about 2 miles away. And the door would open, and the house would be warm. And for those of you who have grown up in cold climates, you will remember that beautiful tactile experience of coming out of the cold into a warm house. And not only was the house warm, it smelled delicious. And usually by the time we got there, the dishes were out of the oven already. And because I know I have vegetarian friends who listen, I am going to skip my description of the obligatory turkey, and I will move on to the dishes that we could all potentially enjoy together. Some of the other dishes that my aunt would fix would be, of course, stuffing, and I have always loved stuffing. And later in this episode, I will share with you a recipe that I found for the best stuffing ever. So there would always be stuffing, and she would make these delicious, crispy potatoes, oven roasted potatoes that were awesome. And they took all day to cook, and they were basted in butter. And, part of the ritual of Thanksgiving was you had to pass through the kitchen to get to the dining area. And so you would have to pick at something on the way through. You might pick for a crispy potato. You might pick for a crispy section of the stuffing. We also had the sweet potatoes, and I'm trying to remember if there were marshmallows on them. I've had so many sweet potatoes with marshmallows in my life, but I can't recall if that's how my aunt made them or not. But I loved the sweet potatoes. And then there were always olives, black olives, not the artisanal olives, but the regular black pedestrian pitted olives. There were several of us in our family that were obsessed with them, and so no matter how many olives got put on the table, we consumed them all. And of course, as children, it was the game of putting the olives on your fingers because we had the pitted olives. And so we would move from the living room through the kitchen where you would grab for something, and then we would go into the dining room where the meal would be served. And the food was always delicious, and the conversation was wonderful, and we always ate too much. And then there was cranberry sauce and the gravy and the requisite green bean casserole that went with all of the holiday meals. I don't seem to recall that there were rolls on the table. We didn't really need them because we were so carb heavy in every other way. And at some point, the pies would come out. And again, my mom and her sister were of the generation where you made pie. You didn't buy pie. You had to make it. And so I was never a huge pumpkin pie fan, but I would eat a little piece because you were supposed to. But I didn't really start eating pumpkin pie until I was a little bit older. But I can still see my aunt's pumpkin pie with the homemade crust. And then she would whip the cream with the beaters. So no Cool Whip or canned whipped cream in that household. It came out of the bottle and you whipped it with the electric beaters. And there were also some other desserts usually, maybe some brownies or an apple pie, a different kind of pie, depending on who brought what. And there would also be coffee that the whipped cream would go into sometimes. And then there would be seconds for dessert, right? Someone would be like, "Can I just give me a sliver? Just give me a little bit." You know the joy of asking for just a sliver. Just give me a sliver of that. Our family was big on slivers. Just a little bit, just a little piece. And the joy of getting that extra little sliver, that extra little piece, that nosh of something, because it was a holiday and nobody is counting calories or watching what other people are eating. The food police were on vacation. And we would enjoy our time together. And over the years, the table would change based on who had joined our family. That spouses would be added and the great joy of children being born. And our family would grow and the conversations would change. And it was something that I could depend upon. And even when I moved to Los Angeles, every Thanksgiving I would fly back to Chicago for the holiday. And I was one of those people who would fly on Wednesday afternoon so I didn't have to take off of work. And I would make my way to LAX and get on my flight so that I could spend Thanksgiving with my family. And then I would depart on Sunday afternoon. And now I couldn't imagine doing that. It's like too many people. I mean, the being with my family on Thanksgiving, I can imagine. I mean, the travel part of traveling. The day before Thanksgiving, for Thanksgiving. But I was very hardy back then, and I had a big adventurous spirit, and I was young. And so I thought nothing of it. And so I didn't miss a Thanksgiving in Chicago until I was in my late 30s, which I just think is lovely. At some point, it became too much for my Aunt Jane. It's a lot to put together Thanksgiving, and some of the other women in our family took over, and at some point my sister-in-law started doing it, and it changed, right? It changes, and because people grow and life changes and families move and satellite off into other endeavors. But one of the things for which I am so deeply grateful is that I had, for much of my life, very idyllic Thanksgivings with my family. And they keep me warm. The memories of it, the love of it, I can still access. It is still here in my heart. And so those were some of my first Thanksgiving memories. And then I'll share with you the first time I ever made a Thanksgiving meal. And these days, this would be called Friendsgiving. So it's when a group of friends gets together before Thanksgiving to celebrate together. Now has been dubbed Friendsgiving. But back in the day, which would have probably been around 1984, it had not gotten such a cool name. I was living in a one-bedroom apartment with a friend of mine. I've shared with you about this in another episode. I don't remember which one, but we were two working girls. We shared a one-bedroom apartment. We had twin beds in there. We had very little furniture. Oh, I shared it with you in all my sofas. I shared with you how we had two twin mattresses on the floor with throw pillows that were our couch, and I had a papasan chair. We had a small kitchen table with two chairs, I believe. So we decided we wanted to cook a Thanksgiving meal for our friends. I can't remember if we decided this together or if I decided this on my own. I don't really remember that part of it. But we cooked with all the trimmings. We cooked the bird, we cooked the stuffing, the sweet potatoes, the green bean casserole, and we didn't have a table. So what we did is we put green garbage bags down on the floor, which was carpeted, and then we put paper tablecloths over the plastic bags. So the plastic bags were put down to make sure that if anyone spilled, it didn't leak through the carpeting. And my vision of this, my memory of this, was the long tablecloth. We had a lot of people there. And I remember it being a very exuberant celebration. It was so much fun. And I remember how it felt to cook that meal for the first time. And having to, I don't remember calling my mom for advice, but I'm sure I did. There's no way I would have gotten through that whole meal without my mother's support. And somehow we pulled it off. And it was so much fun. So that was my first Thanksgiving meal that I ever cooked on my own, with my roommate probably. So again, I'm not trying to lay claim to the whole thing by myself, but I mean, that was the first Thanksgiving meal that I'd ever concocted, independent of my mom or my aunt. And then over the years, as I got older, I still would go back to Chicago for Thanksgiving. And then depending on when Thanksgiving fell, I would extend the trip because my mom's birthday was on December 3rd. And especially as she got older, I always wanted to be with her on her birthday. So usually that Thanksgiving trip would grow a bit longer. These days, it's not such a big deal for me anymore. Usually my husband and I enjoy having the day to ourselves. Sometimes we have our family over and we have Thanksgiving together. It really depends. No one in my husband's family, including my husband, are fans of the traditional Thanksgiving trimmings. So we always have unusual food for I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Like I was going to tell you we had some unusual, eclectic, weird food. We have total muggle food. Like mac and cheese out of the box. is a big hit around here for Thanksgiving. We started these traditions with the kids when they were young, and so now this is their holiday food. And so we eat very easy, fun food for Thanksgiving, which as the hostess, that works for me because I'm not slaving over 1,000 dishes for Thanksgiving. Another sweet thing that I was remembering about Thanksgiving, that for those of you who live outside of the US, you might not know this as a rite of passage, but somewhere around kindergarten, we are taught how to draw a turkey by tracing our hand on a piece of paper. So you spread out your fingers and you put your hand flat on a piece of paper, and then you outline it. And since we were in kindergarten, I'm sure we outlined it with one of those giant fat crayons. And the thumb would be the head of the turkey, and each of the other 4 fingers would be its feathers, and then you would decorate it. And so probably on refrigerators across America, held up by magnets, were hand turkeys drawn by the children of that household every single year. So that came to me in the middle of the night. I thought, I have to talk about the turkey hands that we would draw when we were little, and they would show up on every refrigerator. Refrigerator art is wonderful, isn't it? I'm a big fan of refrigerator art from children. Okay, and we can't have a Thanksgiving episode without talking about the phenomenon of pumpkin spice everything. I don't know if pumpkin spice everything is a big thing outside of the US, or if it's a flavor profile unique to us. So these days, if you were to be in the United States the month before Thanksgiving, you would find pumpkin spice everything. Pumpkin spice cereal, pumpkin spice lattes, pumpkin spice popcorn. Everything is pumpkin spice. But it was not always this way. And so I actually Googled before this episode to find out, when did the pumpkin spice phenomenon happen? And it's an interesting story. So this is from an article in Business Insider that was written in October of 2016, called A Brief History of How Pumpkin Spice Took Over Our Lives. So, at Starbucks, because Starbucks is really the ones responsible for making pumpkin spice such a huge phenomenon. So back in 2003, Starbucks product team and the espresso division, they were trying to come up with fall flavor profiles for drinks. And a gentleman named Peter Dukes got the inspiration for pumpkin spice flavored drinks, like the pumpkin spice latte we have all come to know and love. The thing is the development team was not sold on the power of pumpkin spice. They had other flavors they were going to go for, but he advocated. He kept pushing for pumpkin spice to go out into the world as a latte. And eventually they tested it, and it became a thing. I mean, I know I have friends here, hello, you know who you are, who listen to this podcast, who there's joy in their hearts every year when the pumpkin spice latte comes back to Starbucks. And imagine what that must be like, walking around the world knowing that you were the one responsible for bringing pumpkin spice everything into the American palate once again. Because it's a whole emotional connection that we have to pumpkin spice now. Trader Joe's, they have like 30 or 40 different pumpkin spice things that they bring to the market each year. So we all can thank Peter Dukes for bringing to us something we never knew we even needed. The pumpkin spice latte, which then gave birth to pumpkin spice everything else. And just because I thought it would be fun, I have the Trader Joe's Fearless Flyer from fall 2022. And we'll go through it together and look for some of their pumpkin treats. So on the front page, they have the pumpkin chipotle roasting sauce, which does not sound like something that I would use because I don't do spicy foods very well. But it says that you'll find plenty of creamy, savory pumpkin flavor scented with classic warming spices like cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, allspice, and clove. So you can put that over vegetables, you can put that over pasta, you can use that as a dip. So it's their pumpkin chipotle roasting sauce, which I cannot give you any kind of review on because that is not something I would eat. On the next page, they have honey roasted pumpkin ravioli, which sounds absolutely delicious. Again, it's not something I would eat these days. I would have loved it though in the past. It's pumpkin that's been roasted with honey, brown sugar, and molasses. Like, what's bad about that? Plus ricotta and mozzarella cheese. Okay, well, that sounds simply phenomenal. They also have, this is not pumpkin, but it does have sweet potato, which I think is a cousin to pumpkin in some ways from a palate standpoint. A roasted turkey and sweet potato burrito. And it is a flour tortilla filled with sweet potatoes, cranberry salsa, white turkey, plus rice, black beans, and chili pepper seasoning. Again, not my palate, but sounds interesting. There is no pumpkin though, but I will give it a special honorary place because of its inclusion of sweet potatoes. And Pumpkin Joy is not just about food. There is a vanilla pumpkin scented candle. I used to love scented candles and I can't handle them anymore, but back in the day when I loved a good candle, that would have been something I would have gotten. And it's only $3.99, so it is a bargain on top of it. And now we get to a Trader Joe's classic, which is the pumpkin spiced JoJo's. Now the JoJo's are the Trader Joe's version of Oreos. They are not Oreos. They are not affiliated with Oreos, but they are those kinds of sandwich cookies. And throughout the year, they come out with different flavors. And the pumpkin spice one has been a classic for a long time. And so there are pumpkin JoJo's dipped in a pumpkin spiced yogurt flavored coating and then topped with some sea salt. I know there are people who wait all year for those. I don't know that I've ever had one, but I can appreciate the love and the passion people have for them. Next, we have pumpkin sticky toffee cakes, which again sound delicious, but I would not have them because I don't eat sugar anymore. This one I did not see because I would have gotten it. Vanilla pumpkin hand soap and hand lotion. Now, I wouldn't have gotten the lotion. I'm not a fan of scented lotion, but I do like a good hand soap. So, especially the foaming kind. I love the foaming hand soap. And even though this is not pumpkin related, I did just buy 2 bottles of their peppermint hand soap from Trader Joe's, but we'll have to talk about that when we get to the holiday mint flavor conversation at some point. Okay, we're now back in the food. So there's pumpkin cranberry crisps, which are kind of like a high-end cracker. I have not had these, but they sound good and would be probably good with some sort of cheese spread or dip on it. And then they have pumpkin non-fat Greek yogurt or organic pumpkin spice cashew yogurt. I have had the pumpkin Greek yogurt, and it's really good with some granola in it. Yum. Really good. And you know what I didn't do this year, but I could, is to do some kind of pumpkin yogurt in my Ninja Creamy and have pumpkin ice cream. That could be completely yummy. They also had mini spicy pumpkin samosas, which sound really good, but they lose me at the spicy because I can't do spicy. But I love pumpkin and I love samosas, but I didn't get these because they said spicy and Wes wouldn't eat them. So to get a box of samosas for just 1 or 2 of them didn't make sense. So I didn't get those, but I heard good things about them. All right, and now we get to the gluten-free pumpkin streusel muffins, easy for me to say, which sound delicious. And also these look so good, and I've never had them. Pumpkin rolls with pumpkin icing. So they're like the cinnamon rolls that you get in the tube, and you break open the tube, and then you put them on a pan and bake them. Well, these are the pumpkin version of them, and I've never gotten them. I've really, now that I don't eat sugar anymore, this stuff is just not available to me, but I enjoy knowing that it exists in the world. And then these sound amazing. Pumpkin cheesecake croissants. I mean, that sounds awesome. They're frozen. And so you thaw them overnight and then you bake them in the oven. And then they have pumpkin overnight oats, which I have not tried but sound good. I make my own overnight oats, so I don't ever buy overnight oats that have already been mixed up. And they even have pumpkin maple bacon flavored treats for dogs. Yay for our puppies. Oh, and you know what? This is on the back, and I'll tell you why I'm saying oh. They have pumpkin bread and muffin mix, original or gluten-free. And here's why you had that emotional oh for me. This was my mom's favorite, the pumpkin bread mix. Every year, she would buy a half a dozen boxes of it. And so in October and November, when you went to her house, she usually had some of this made up because my nieces loved it and she always loved having it for them. And, oh, this is such a sweet story. So my mom passed in 2019 and her birthday was December 3rd. And so that first December 3rd without her, I was at Trader Joe's and they were sampling the pumpkin bread with the pumpkin butter. That was my mom's favorite. And so I tasted that, of course, and I felt like it was a hello from heaven from my mom. That of all the things they would be tasting on that day, it would be her very favorite, which was the pumpkin bread and the pumpkin butter. So we'll end with that as far as the Trader Joe's exploration goes. And I also just have to give a shout out to the podcast Sleep With Me and Andrew Ackerman, because he has done many wonderful episodes where he explores the Trader Joe's Fearless Flyer. And so it has inspired me to keep old Fearless Flyers because I like going through them. They entertain me now. And so I'm so glad to share this with you. And then before we complete this episode, I did promise you a really good stuffing recipe. So I want to make sure I can share that with you. So for those of you that are vegan or vegetarian, you can make this vegan or vegetarian. But I'm going to read it to you the way it's written down. And I did take this out of one of the Chicago newspapers back in the 80s, and I don't remember, but it was probably the Sun-Times. It's cornbread sausage stuffing with apples. So you start off with 12 tablespoons of butter, 2.5 cups of finely chopped yellow onions, 3 tart apples cut into chunks, unpeeled, 1 pound of lightly seasoned breakfast sausage. So now that they have the Impossible sausage, that's why I'm thinking that this could be made vegan. 3 cups each of breadcrumbs, corn, wheat, and white. 2 teaspoons of thyme, dried. 1 teaspoon of sage, dried. Half a cup of chopped Italian parsley. 1.5 cups of shelled pecan halves, and then salt and pepper to taste. And here's how you make it. Melt half the butter in a skillet. Add chopped onions and cook over medium heat, partially covered, until tender and lightly colored. And that will take about 25 minutes. And then you transfer the onions and butter into a large bowl. Melt the remaining butter in the same skillet and add the apples and cook until lightly colored but not mushy over a high heat. Then you transfer the apples and the butter to the bowl. And then you crumble the sausage and you cook until lightly brown and transfer that to the bowl with a slotted spoon and discard the fat. And then you add the remaining ingredients to the bowl and combine gently. Cool completely before stuffing the bird. And this is really, really important. You never put warm stuffing inside of the bird because you could give food poisoning to everyone. So the stuffing has to be cooled completely before it goes into the bird if you are going to stuff the bird, or else you can cook it in its own bowl, which is usually what I would do, and refrigerate if not used promptly. And this is enough for an 18 to 22 pound turkey. This is some of the best stuffing I've ever had. It was so good. I haven't made it in many years. I actually had to go and dig it out for this episode. I was so happy I could find it. It's interesting that it doesn't have celery in it because so many of the stuffing recipes have celery. But it was absolutely delicious, and it makes a lot of stuffing. You figure you've got 9 cups of breadcrumbs. I don't know, for some reason it seems like it was a lot more than that. I may have put in even more breadcrumbs or something when I would make it. But it was absolutely delicious. So I don't make this anymore because the people who typically come to my house for Thanksgiving are not really interested in stuffing. And I do not need to be eating 12 cups of stuffing all by myself. That would be a disaster. So usually what I do is I buy one of those little trays of stuffing. They have them actually at Trader Joe's. I already purchased one. And it's just a little tray of stuffing, so I can't get into too much trouble. But that is my ode to Thanksgiving. I have lots of wonderful memories of Thanksgiving and a lot of joy associated with the holiday. And I know that these holidays can become a bit more tender, especially as loved ones depart this earth. And so, however you're feeling about your holidays this year, I send you love. I hope you have wonderful memories in your heart that you can revisit, that will bring you joy and make you smile, and that you can feel the love across the years, across the dimensions and the miles. And again, we'll focus on gratitude and how grateful I am for the gift of you. So I send you an astral pumpkin spice latte. And if you don't like that, you can have your beverage of choice. I send you love. I send you goodness, and I send you joy. I love you very much, and I am deeply grateful for the gift of you. So sweet dreams, rest well, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.